Hi, I'm Amber Sim. This is South Florida Homes, where we're talking about all things real estate. We have with us today Emily Byrd from Compass. She's going to talk to us about one of the exciting properties she has in Coconut Grove, and then we're going to get into just kind of some personal things with real estate and just talk about the overall market. So Emily, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you on our show. So I would love to just start off talking about what brought you to real estate, maybe some of your background, just for everyone watching.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Okay, so background in real estate. So I got into real estate about 10 years ago. It's actually a little over 10 years. And I originally was in the music business for about 8 years prior to that.
Wow. Doing what? Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So I worked both in publishing and in production. I spent the majority of my time in publishing.
Okay, so you're familiar with this, the sound.
Yeah. So I definitely, it definitely paved a good foundation for real estate, in terms of just negotiating, dealing with really difficult situations, getting creative on how to work a deal. So I loved my time in the music business, but I kind of grew up in real estate law. My dad and my uncle were both commercial real estate attorneys. So my dream is to go to law school and kind of work in the real estate world, but I'll be honest, I took the LSAT after the music business, and I walked off of Vanderbilt's campus and I was like, I will never do this again.
Oh, no.
Absolutely not. If this is going to be the bar, no pun intended, for law school, I can't do this. So I ended up just getting my real estate license. That was January of 2004, and I was still working in the industry at the time. Luckily, I had a boss that was great and flexible as far as me being able to still work in the industry. And then I phased out of that job. I think it was May or June of 2004, and then 2014. I'm saying 2004, 2014, and I phased out of that and just maintained in real estate and have been doing it ever since then.
Wow, that's so interesting. So, did any of the people from your music career were they buying houses?
That is
Was there a
great question. So I got really lucky in that sense because I always I use the analogy that the music industry is like having a boat. You don't really ever want to own a boat. You just want friends with boats, right? So working in the industry, I loved my time in the music industry, but I was also, I wanted to move on and start something new. And it's very similar to that in that I could still, hang out with some of my friends in the industry and have some of the luxuries of being friends with people that were in the music business. One of those being obviously them becoming my clients. But I didn't have to necessarily deal with some of the stuff in the music industry anymore. So I did. I absolutely worked with a lot of people and still do in entertainment.
Yeah, and I imagine being in Nashville and working in the music industry. It's like being in finance in New York. It's a big deal.
I started my career in Nashville, and I was there for a long time working in real estate, and then I came to real estate here in Miami about three and a half years ago, something like that. I'm really bad at math.
No, it's okay.
Math is not my strong suit. I think it was 3 or 3.5 years ago.
There's calculators now. You don't need to know mental math. I know. I think my brain goes blank as soon as someone tells me to add. I'm like, oh,
nope,
I'm smart.
That does not work for me.
No, I hear you. Also with COVID and everything, it's just time.
Oh my God.
Time is different now. I'm like, I don't know. Was that 2 years ago? Was that?
I know. I'm like, what? All I know is this year and 2020. Everything in between.
It's good. You can focus, on the present. But okay, so a few years ago, you moved to Miami then, and then did you jump right into real estate? Yeah,
so I have been coming to South Florida for literally my whole life. A lot of my family lives down here.
Nice.
And so I have been kind of making those trips down here for a very long time. My sister and her husband, they're in real estate as well, but they're up in Boca.
Okay.
And so I knew I was going to make that transition actually pre-COVID. I was supposed to move here in 2020, and I had signed a lease and everything here when I was supposed to move here. That's a whole other story. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to move in, not because of me, but because the tenant occupying that property decided to stay and they couldn't evict them because of the eviction moratoriums. But no, I was supposed to be here sooner, and unfortunately, just due to everything with that and the pandemic, I didn't get here until 2021.
You timed it too early.
That was kind of my plan. But yeah, when I got here, I jumped right into real estate, and it is not at all what I thought it was going to be like. It's very, very different between both markets.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to hear about some of the differences.
Yeah, I was, at the time I was thinking, okay, I can work both markets very easily because following the flight pattern back and forth between Nashville and South Florida, at the time, there were so many options as far as flying here nonstop. It was very easy to get back and forth. And because of COVID, all of that changed. The flight patterns became more obsolete in terms of nonstop, constant cancellations, and then you add that on top of the general up and down of real estate. In 2022, I went back, I think 7 or 8 times to Nashville. And I remember the last deal that ended up falling apart. It didn't even close, that I went there and I said, okay, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. I am going to refer everything out. Because you think through, the cost of the flights, and then Nashville is not easy to get around in terms of, I'd have to rent a car, I'd have to find a place to stay. And I really wanted to focus on Miami. Like it's a beast.
Yeah.
It's a beast of a city.
Say, just getting your arms around this.
Just trying to learn real estate here. And it was too much energy being put in the wrong place. So now I just refer everything out.
Well, and it's interesting because it's like, of course, obviously there's this big movement of working from home, the hybrid. It's real estate is a people's game. It's an in-person. It's like anytime I go somewhere, anyone's like, are you working remote? I mean, yes, always you're answering your phone, you're talking to your clients, but you can't be gone more than a week because things come up, and you have to react very quickly. You have to be on the ground, and you have to be in tune with your market too.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I imagine to be most effective at your job, if you can do both, that's incredible. But that's like a Herculean effort that I don't think most people or many people could do.
I know. I admire agents that are able to capitalize on the seasons because South Florida, we have opposite seasons from, I think, the rest of the United States, so in terms of high season and low season. And so I admire agents that are able to do that. For me and myself, I could not, I couldn't get it to work with just so many complex issues now that we have to deal with that we didn't have to prior to 2020.
So I'm curious, I feel like a lot of themes that come up in Miami market in South Florida. I mean, you think of weather resistance, you think of termites, you think of water, you think of all these different factors. Are those things similar considerations when you're buying a house in Nashville, or is that a whole new set of things you have to learn?
Oh my gosh, such a great question. How much time do we have?
I was gonna say, I assume it's different.
I know. So here, the first thing that I wanted to tackle was the condo market, just condos.
Yeah.
There are so
many
condos in Miami. It is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to just get a handle of that, especially on the mainland, because I live over here in Miami. Miami Beach is also another beast. So I wanted to just understand the condo market first.
Yeah.
I own a condo in Nashville. Condos there are very few and far between. There's not a lot, especially in comparison to here.
It's mostly single family.
Right,
houses.
mostly single family.
Okay.
So most of my business was primarily single family, new construction. I also understood Airbnbs. It's very, that was kind of my market in Nashville. Here, I feel like it has become more condo heavy, and it's a much harder lift here.
Yeah.
It's a totally different market in terms of trying to sell condos, the demographic, in terms of the type of buyer that you're working with here in South Florida, especially Miami. So once I started to get a grasp on that, I have started to, understand the process of single family homes and purchasing those here, but it is very different, especially when it comes to inspections, and especially when it comes to new construction and renovation. The permit process here, even agents that have been here for a long time, I think there's still a learning curve trying to figure out codes, trying to figure out how to get things passed through with the city here. I, was working with, in new construction, working with land deals. Here, that's also different. So trying to understand that process here in Miami versus Nashville, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's like a world different.
Insurance is huge.
Yeah.
That is something, again, that I think agents, no matter how long you've been in the business for, is the goalpost is always moving.
Yeah.
Here in South Florida.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I am still trying to truly wrap my head around on how that works.
No, and it takes so much time. I think, like you were saying, it's like even agents who have been here for a really long time. It's like, everything is evolving in Miami. There's so much new development. There's a lot of old houses and buildings as well, which is like a different pain point in the inspection process. But yeah, you're always learning on this job, and that's why it's important to have good people on your team, so that you can keep up to date and best inform your clients. So I know you mentioned condos. So, and I know you have a really exciting property that you wanted to highlight. So, I would love to hear some details about your property that you have in the Grove.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a couple of listings in this property. It's called the Aria Hotel.
Okay.
So it is right smack dab in the middle of the Grove. It is such a great location.
That's off Bayshore, right?
Yep, it's off of Bayshore.
It's on the corner.
And McFarland.
Yeah.
Yep. And so it is, you are allowed as an investor to, have, these units are owner occupied, or, they are owned by owners, but they can rent them out.
Okay.
And so it's a little bit difficult to describe. It's really something that you have to see in person in terms of how these units work, because they are set up really, truly for an investor, not necessarily primary. You can live in them as a primary, but, if you really want to maximize on your return, I would definitely suggest utilizing it as an investor. So, the listings that I have, they, depending on which listing, but this one in specific that I'm speaking about, comes with two main doors, but 3 separate keys.
Oh, interesting.
So back behind one of the main doors has 2 separate entrances to 2 separate units. So essentially, for the price that we have it listed at 1.395, you as the investor have the ability to rent it out to 3 separate parties.
Wow.
Or you have the ability to rent it out to 2 parties because you've got 2 separate doors. So you can open that main door.
Interesting.
And then you have 2 doors to rent out.
And to clarify, do
parties.
those doors lead to the bedrooms, or?
They do.
Okay,
they
so
do.
it's like you walk in, there's the hallway, and then there's the 3 doors to 3 of the bedrooms. So there would be a shared common space probably, and then you could have separate keys for the...
Similar, somewhat to that. So this main door that is being shown opens up to 2 separate access, 2 separate units. One of them you have, a full kitchen in, you have a living room, a little dining space, you have a washer and dryer, you've got an actual formal 1 bedroom. It's a corner unit with a wraparound balcony. So it has pristine, unblocked views of the bay, as well as Coconut Grove and Coral Gables.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
that's one access or one access point, and then the second access point is your standard hotel room. So there's no balcony, but you have a room with a little kitchenette in it, full bathroom. And so if somebody wants to stay there, you know, and have, you know, two different families, they want to stay, one of them wants to stay in the bigger side, they can do that. And then put, you know, a smaller family in a secondary bedroom, they're allowed to do that as well. Where that second main door comes in is that when that door is opened, it is opened into another large suite. So that large suite, which is separate from these two that are just mentioned, you walk into, you know, a living room space with a kitchen. You also have a balcony that overlooks Coconut Grove and Coral Gables. So it really has a lot of flexible options. And I know it's a little confusing hearing,
no, that makes sense.
but it's when you walk through it, you really see how it maximizes.
So
you know,
basically
your income.
you get 3 units for one
for
price.
one, yes, for one.
And so I know you said it's a hotel condo, right?
It is, yes.
Does that mean you can do daily rentals?
Absolutely. So that is the selling point with this. So Coconut Grove, you know, obviously I'm biased here, but it's the best. It is the best location in Miami. And where this is situated is it's so close to, you know, tons of shops and restaurants, bars. I mean, it's such a walkable location. But in addition to that, you have the flexibility of being able to rent everything out or rent your property out daily.
Which is like unheard of.
Right.
Miami.
It doesn't.
Most places you can't do that.
And also, you know, maintain the integrity of the building. A lot of buildings that I've walked through that are dailies, unless they're associated with a nice hotel, just in my opinion, I don't feel like that building is something worth investing into because the integrity and the authenticity of that building has not been kept up to par. Whereas I can say that about Aria. So you have several different options as an investor. You can go into the hotel program if you want. With the hotel program, you know, it's set it and forget it. You touch nothing. They handle everything.
And what's their cut?
What's that?
What's their cut?
Their cut is 50%.
50%. Okay.
Yep. So you realistically are probably going to be netting around 35.
Okay.
Your take home, you know, 35%.
Okay. That's pretty good, though.
Is
that factoring in?
Yeah, you're factoring in
like your
expenses,
if you're financing and everything too.
Yeah, right about there.
Wow, that's actually a pretty good return.
I mean, obviously, it depends on how much you're financing.
Yeah.
You know,
fair.
and you think about interest rate.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that this building is very, very cash heavy, so it's very healthy on reserves. So if you decide, you know, you don't want to go the hotel route, you have the option of hiring a property manager. Standard rates around here are anywhere from 20 to 25%.
But then, do they do cleaning? They do everything.
So they would basically manage the bookings for you. They would manage the cleaning schedule. So another option to do, set it and forget it. But you're not necessarily having to, you know, abide by the hotel regulations. So some of those would be having the same furniture. You know, there's certain regulations that the hotel is going to require, that the interiors are all, you know, consistent with one another. So if you want to do any type of updates to the unit, those are things that you would have to, you know, get with the hotel program and see if it aligns with what they have in place. If you decide that you want to manage it yourself, the best thing about this hotel is that, or property I should say, is that you can utilize the hotel concierge to check in and check out guests.
Oh, that's cool.
So you don't have to hire someone to do that for you. You don't have to pay extra. That is included in your HOA fees. And all you really have to do is just manage the cleaning crew and manage the bookings.
Interesting.
And that's it.
So this is a super specific question.
Okay.
But I'm thinking, like, I work a lot of times with first-time home buyers. Would you be able to live in one of those units and declare homestead and, like, rent out the other two? I don't know. That's super specific. That might require more research, but I'm just curious, like, thinking about it.
So I don't want to speak out of turn here.
It's okay. We won't hold you to anything. Yeah, we know it was an out of the blue question.
Yeah, so. I know that there are ways to claim homestead and also rent out, part of your property, but I don't necessarily know the exact terms of what that looks like. Or something. Yeah. So to answer your first question, you can purchase as a primary.
Okay.
I just don't know the exact terms without stating anything that's gonna.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I wasn't really expecting you to answer. I was just kind of curious if you did know or had anyone ask.
I'm sure that can be done, but I would definitely pass that question to an attorney.
Yeah, that's fair. That's safe. Okay, so I guess can you talk through some of the amenities that this building offers?
Yeah, absolutely. So it has a pool that is on the 8th floor. Most of their amenities are on the 8th floor.
And do they have like a restaurant that everyone can access?
So they do, but it's in the process of being renovated.
Got it.
Right now. So once that gets finished out, it's going to have beautiful views because again, it's sitting direct bay as well as the pool.
Got it.
So, I mean, and they are on the same level on the 8th floor. So once that gets finished out, it's going to be great because you're going to have access to food and drinks right there. And like I said, it's all direct bay pacing. So beautiful views, beautiful sunrise.
I remember they have a pretty good happy hour. Or they used to.
I
don't know, that might be going away with the renovations.
I think that's coming soon.
Okay, good.
They do, oftentimes when I'm showing the units, I do see that there are wedding parties there or there's
because they have
baby showers or graduation.
Club right there.
They have a lot of space for people to utilize, like club rooms to utilize if they want to host showers there or outdoor spaces. They do have a full gym. And like I said, there's parking on site as well. So with the unit, it does have an unassigned parking spot, which is plenty of parking in the building, and then also valet.
Yeah, and not that you really need to
drive that
you
don't
places.
Need,
you're in the Grove, you can walk. And I feel like, especially like people coming in from other cities on vacation, it's like you have everything you need right there. Well, this is a beautiful building. It sounds like a really interesting investment and seems to actually pair really well with your previous experience in Nashville, just with like putting on that investor hat. And thank you so much for sharing with us and being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, good. And thank you for everyone watching. We look forward to seeing you next time.